in terms of yeah, it's 2 past. We've got quite a few people in now. So we can kick off.
Sounds
Alex,
good.
all good for you?
Right.
Cool. Yeah. So thanks for joining, everyone. Just running through a quick webinar, a little bit more about late payments, cash flow forecasting. The idea came from Crezco and Syft, and we thought we would invite Johan in just to give us a bit of frontline experience as well with the clients. He's both a user of Crezco and Syft. So what we could do, we'll just present ourselves quickly, and then we've got various topics that we're going to discuss. It's very informal, just kind of pulling from experience of both apps and the accounting side from Johan. Shouldn't be too long. I think we blocked out an hour, but we're quite open. There'll be 3 polls during the whole session, more so to kind of engage, see where come at some of the questions that we're going to be covering too. And then feel free to pop those questions in to the Q&A chat, and Alex will kindly kind of put them to us as we go through. Cool. So who wants to kick off their intros? Jodilee, Johan, me?
I can start.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jodilee. My background is accounting, so I studied to be a chartered accountant, and I worked for, I think, just short of 7 years as an auditor at PwC. And then at the beginning of this year, I joined Syft Analytics as head of training and head of education and training. And yeah, my kind of main role is to make sure people are getting the most out of Syft Analytics, and using my accounting background to see how we can improve the product and improve the user's experience. And yeah, I really love my job, and I love all the solutions Syft has. So that's me.
Johan, do you want to jump in? I'll go
Cool. Yeah, so my name's Johan. I am the Group Managing Director of the On Point Accounting Group. We've got 6 different accounting firms dotted across the UK. We are strategic partners for QuickBooks, beta testers for Crezco, certified users of Syft. Yeah, I like to dabble with my softwares. So yeah, that's me basically.
Put it that way, that's for sure. Yeah, hi, Max, head of sales here at Crezco, various backgrounds, and more so the tech side. I don't have a background in accounting at all, but kind of learned it on the job going through. So I started out at Receipt Bank and Dext on the accounts payable side of things and the automation, and then moved to Crezco a couple of years ago when it first started to focus on payments, mainly for B2B and SME focused. And since then, we've kind of gathered loads of feedback in terms of our users, and there's a space in the market to make it a little bit better. So that's why we're kind of here today. Cool. Yeah. So what we'll be covering, quick kind of plan. First of all, we were just going to give a quick intro in terms of the SMEs, kind of the state of play today, or are they looking to grow? We've got a poll going through there. We're then going to cover a little bit more in terms of the importance of data forecasting, and so that would be more so on the Syft side, and what's coming in, why is it coming into the limelight, especially now, going into some choppy times, and then also linking into that to late payments, and then how can the accountants leverage their current tech stack? Do they want to add into it? Should they add into it? And then how should we charge for that? Should we charge for it? And what we did compared to like the COVID times. So that's a brief overview of what we want to cover. So yeah, in terms of Johan, some good points. I'll drop a poll in terms of the SMEs, just in terms of, have you kind of seen your client struggle already or ask for assistance? I think Johan had a very good point when he was covering. I'll kind of let you jump on that in terms of what's happened over the last couple of months compared to what you've seen during COVID.
Yeah, I mean, I think my observation is that we went into COVID, which became an economic crisis for small businesses, but we went into that for small businesses relatively debt-free. We then all got this fantastic bounce back loan and CBILS loans and stuff, which has led to small businesses being lent more money than they would have potentially have ever been lent by a bank outside of the government backing. And we're now lurching into another potential economic crisis. I mean, they've just upped the bank interest rates by 0.75%. I doubt I'll see that on my savings account, mate. But like, we've just gone into this, we're going into another economic crisis, but this time small businesses, they can't just rely on their innovation and their tightening of their belts a bit, because they're going in debt laden. So this challenge ahead of us is going to be a bigger challenge than COVID was. And there's going to be less financial support, I would suggest. We could be wrong. On the 17th of November, we could find out there's loads of support coming out from the government, but I doubt it. They're trying to reduce the debt, not increase it. So I think if you thought it was tough to get through COVID and help your clients then you've got a real challenge ahead of you in the next year or two, I'm afraid.
Yeah, we kind of saw it as well. I was back at Receipt Man going through the whole of COVID, and I think we actually hit quite good numbers in terms of people signing up, because people wanted to know a little bit more in terms of what they had to pay, what was coming through, instead of doing everything at the end of the month. And I think that leads hand in hand with what Syft can propose on that side. And I think that's sadly the important side of it at the moment.
Yeah, I think from a personal perspective, I can maybe just touch on that, because I bought a house during COVID and my interest rate has gone up by 2% in South Africa, which makes a huge dent on my interest repayment. So it's like a silly example, but I've really had to relook at my budget and relook at like what I'm spending my money on. And so I think all businesses are going to have to do the same thing going forward. And as you said, I can just, decrease my entertainment costs, but you can't just cut your wages, or you can't just cut, inventory. So it's often a bit more difficult to see how can I still afford everything and still grow my business and meet all those challenges. And I think the key point, which we're all kind of getting at, is that times are tough and they might be getting tougher, and cash is the, critical thing you need to be managing. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have cash, your business is not going to be able to operate. So it's important to kind of know where it's coming from and where it's going, and how you can get it quicker and easier.
Yeah, interesting enough. So on the poll, just looking at it now, we have a 50-50% split between people or clients actually asking their accountant for help or assistance, and if they're struggling or not, which is, I think, is quite interesting that it's not kind of tilting towards one way, but I'm guessing is it potentially clients that are not yet do not have the visibility to see that, oh, it might be in that case. I don't know if Johan, you've got any top tips to kind of ask or propose?
I think it's potentially clients are struggling, they don't know about it yet because it's not hit the bank balance yet. We're certainly seeing clients go, oh, the bank balance at the end of this month was lower than the end of last month, and they're starting to get their cash flow forecasting minds on again, which we haven't seen since COVID. And there will be businesses that will struggle first, and there'll be businesses that will struggle later, depending on, if the one silver lining at this moment in time for small businesses. So normally we'd see hospitality struggle at this time, when as soon as people start saying there's an economic crisis, cost of living's going up, hospitality normally gets hit quite hard. But normally when there's an economic crisis, there's huge job losses and there's huge unemployment. We're at the lowest unemployment we've seen in the UK in decades, and we're also seeing the highest cost of living wage and the highest wage payments we've ever seen. So that will help numb and offset some of the problems for now. But we as accountants need to be aware that we are educated enough to know that there is turbulent times coming. How long those are going to be here for and how bad they're going to be, we don't know. The mortgage market are saying it's going to be huge, like as in the percentage of drop on the economy, but it's going to be a shorter period of time than we saw in 2008. So it should be easier to ride out. But we don't know. It's all speculation. And just because your clients aren't asking you yet, we are certainly on a weekly basis having topics of conversation internally of what are we doing to get ready?
Yeah.
Are we making sure all of our clients are plugged into Syft Analytics to make sure that we can spot problems before our clients can through the analytic tools and the audit tools? Are we encouraging our clients to use more cost-effective payment processing and to get their money into their bank quicker through things like Crezco? You know, we've for a long time advised clients never to use PayPal. It's too expensive and too slow. Let's get the money in the bank account quicker, so it's there for you, but also cheaper, so you can keep it. Yes, it's only a 4% fee, but 4% on that amount of transactions soon adds up. So yeah, we just, as accountants, we need to be proactive and come across supportive of this.
I think also just to add to that, I mean, if people aren't feeling the pinch, that's great. But I think good cash flow management is very important, even when you are successful. You know, if you're fortunate enough to have a whole lot of extra cash in your bank, and it's just sitting there, well, then you're not using it as efficiently as you could be. So as much as it's important to manage your cash and get cash in quickly when things are bad, when you have surplus cash, it's really important to know that, because you could be investing it in a better place, or you could, you know, start a new business, or, you know, grow. So I think I definitely think that times are tough, but I think, you know, even if you have a client that's maybe benefiting, I know when I was back in audit, a lot of our clients were tech clients, and they actually almost benefited from COVID because everyone went online. And so even if that is the case and your client is one of the lucky few, it's still important to make sure they're making the most of whatever cash they have.
Do you think you're seeing, in terms of, because going back COVID and now, do you think, well, both, especially our partners, I feel like our partners are being a lot more proactive, seeing what's coming around the corner, rather than COVID was super reactive, and a lot of people didn't kind of see the impact that it would have. Would you disagree? Agree? Is there anything that you would do kind of proactively? Because you said you do weekly meetings and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're certainly, if we haven't learned from COVID, should we be branding ourselves as business advisors? Probably not. I've no issue with accountants that say they're business advisors, but my God, you need to know how to run a business. Yeah. And when COVID happened, the amount of accountants around my area that just shut the doors and stopped responding to clients because they couldn't get in the office to get into their filing cabinets, or they didn't have laptops, they just had PCs and all of that. Like, we were always cloud-based, and we've always had team members from day one working from home. It's never been an issue for us. But we were then finding that we had competitors' clients coming to us because we were actually open and communicating. So if those people who closed their doors and then have now reopened, if they've not learned from that, then should they be advising other businesses? Personally, I think not. But so yeah, I'd like to think anyone on this kind of a session is proactive. They are watching the news. They have been for the last 3 years, and dreading every time Rishi Sunak stands up somewhere, or Boris Johnson stood up, or whoever announced a budget stood up and announced it, and we're all sat there with our notepads, because it's not like it used to be where, oh, I'll read that later, I'll read it on the news later, I'll watch that back later. The moment that is announced, you start getting phone calls. Like on Friday nights, clients were calling straight after the announcement to understand what those furlough changes meant to them. So we are a service provider. We live in the Amazon world where they can get, if I went online and ordered something from Amazon, I live in Edinburgh, it could be here today. Yeah. I ordered it early enough this morning. Our clients want that instant access and instant answers. So as accountants, we need to be there to support them, especially if we want to cling on to this business advisor title that we're being told we should be using.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the advisory word is such a big word, and always been used since I started. And I think the automation side, and it kind of leads into the age long of will kind of the automation side of all the tech, especially our apps, like take over the accounting world, and you won't need an accountant at the end of the day. I think it's completely wrong. I think a lot of people saw it during COVID of like, you need to have that personal aspect of, fine, we can collate all the data, but that doesn't mean that even Crezco and Syft can't like programmatically say it's best to do X, Y, Z. It's best to pay all of your bills at the end of this week or at the end of that week. So I think, yeah, the importance of all that cash flow forecasting, which leads on quite nicely. I don't know if you've kind of covered any of that, Jodilee, in terms of running with the partners of why should I start the cash flow forecasting overview?
Yeah, so I think just to touch on what Johan was saying as well, in that they want, like, clients want immediate assistance and they want a quick turnaround time. And I think if you have to go and kind of pull out an Excel spreadsheet and go and take hours to build this cash flow forecast with complex formulas, it's something you're not going to be able to give to them in the time that they're expecting. And so that's when tools like Syft and other reporting and like Crezco, all of those tools become really handy, because you can, in a matter of minutes, all the information pulls through and it can kind of predict what your cash flow is going to look like in the short term. And you can build a forecast that will, update with adjustments. So I think it just kind of takes out that painful process of building it and lets you focus on understanding and giving your clients insights that they value. And we have seen a few of our clients. Alex did a case study with one of our clients. I think they were in New Zealand, Alex, that actually only takes clients that no other accountants really want to take because the businesses are doing so poorly. And they help their clients turn it around. And obviously they do lots of things with them. One of the things they use is Syft Analytics, and they make them build a forecast and a budget and use our cash manager tool so they can see what money is coming in, what's going out, and they can plan it more effectively. And through that, they've been able to turn these clients' businesses around. And they even help them beyond that. I think they helped a couple on the brink of divorce, because obviously cash flow and business issues don't just impact your profitability. So yeah, I think it is a really powerful tool, and I think it's not something that's fun, and you want to kind of rather just be getting those insights and saying, okay, what must I do about it? And a tool like Syft, can kind of take that monotony out of it and just say, this is when you're going to run out of cash. Okay, what must I do about it? So I think that really helps.
Yeah, I think what we've been seeing as well with especially on like the accounts payable side, but also accounts receivable side, and feel free to jump in if I say nonsense here, but on the accounts receivable side, we're trying to reduce. I think card payments have always been 3 to 5 working days. I mean, your direct debits take potentially 10 days to come through. Even if you've been on the first of the month, you're going to only get your payment at the 10th of every single month. So you've got these 10 days of, I don't know where my money is. So the forecasting side, and also what a lot of our partners have started doing is using the likes of Syft Analytics as well, is they forecast and create payment runs depending on when that money is kind of going in. And I thought that was really cool, because especially when you plug it into the likes of an open banking realm where it's instant, that payment is going to go out or in at that specific date. And your suppliers will quite like you for that, first of all, as well. So that will build the confidence in there. But also your clients, you're creating this and hopefully reducing kind of the late payments that everybody's talking about as well.
Definitely, just to add to that, whenever I'm working through our cash manager tool, I'm always like, okay, so you're going to run out of cash. What's one of the things you can do? And the first thing is to try and negotiate, earlier payment terms, or to get your customers to pay you quicker, because you've made the sale, you've done all the hard work. Now you just need to get the money in. So if you have an app like Crezco that can help you get that money quicker, make it easier for people to pay, then that, all of a sudden already takes that first step. You already check that first step off.
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, as you said, Max, the problem is, so we've always used Go Cardless up until recently, and that's all well and good. It collects the money from the client, but it collects the money on day one. And then, especially when you hit Christmas, New Year time, it takes up to about 2 weeks to get the bloody money. Because by the time you've landed the bank holidays just wrong, and the weekends, and and all of a sudden over Christmas, you've got a choke point where it's like, my cash flow is really tight. Why? My clients have all paid us on time. Well, it's actually that handling fee time. So getting the instant payments and getting them through something as simple as a QR code to get rid of that lag time, which means then in Syft Analytics, our cash flow doesn't dip. It just carries on, because we know the money's coming in properly. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah. I agree. I think, and also not just, I think when we look at the different options, we're not saying that Crezco will solve all the problems and like an instant payment solution will solve all problems, but actually a lot of the partners have started offering multiple choices to their clients depending on how they're paying. So a lot of our partners were using bank details or the go cardless on top of their bills. But people like big green buttons that they can click on for some reason. And that tends to, but not everybody's going to do that because they won't feel as comfortable. So I think especially what we've seen is proposing alternative options to the way that they want to pay tends to get you paid. I think we did the report, I think it was like 37% quicker on average. We also had one client that reduced his debtor days by about 9 days, just by adding a couple of options in. And I can imagine on the forecasting model, that must have been quite nice to see.
No, definitely. And I think it just takes a few days. So if you can just reduce those data days by a few days, because if you have to make all your payments 2 days or 1 day before you get all your money, you have to finance that somehow, so that money needs to come from somewhere. And even if it's for a short time, you're still going to pay for that financing, whether it's your overdraft or whatever it is. So it's really critical. And I agree. I think people are different. So we all have different things that, were easy. Some might be suspicious of paying over the internet. But for me personally, if I must now go get my bank and put your bank details in, that's way too difficult. Just give me the card details or a button. But everyone's different. So you kind of need to tailor to that. So having more options definitely sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, I think going on to that, and when we were kind of going through the questions, Johan had a really good point, and I think I tend to agree. The only thing to remember is not have too many apps. I know there's so many apps available for everything. And Johan, I'll let you cover your point of view because I completely agree with it on that.
Yeah, so I mean, Syft, actually, you've caused me a headache this morning or this week, because you've now launched this interactive reporting tool with messaging and stuff built into it and the phone app. And this is like, this is a great way to communicate with our clients using the reporting data that we've got. But I'm now there, but that's another channel for our accountants, for our clients to try and talk to us through. How do we manage that? How does our client manage that? So whenever something like that comes along, we have to reassess it, because I've seen these tech stack spiderweb things like Go Proposal does this spiderweb where you can put all your different apps on, and this is what we're going to use with you. It's like, how many different logins is that? Like, or if you use single login, but how many different apps and windows is that? Well, and how much time are you wasting training your team on stuff like that? And then how much time are you wasting your clients on stuff like that? So we're a QuickBooks only firm. Our team are QuickBooks certified. That's the bookkeeping app we use. We have one payroll solution. We have one reporting solution, because there's no point in me trying to train my staff in having 3 or 4 different reporting solutions. We choose the best solution for our client base and our team. We focus on it. We train our team on it. If someone comes to us with a different solution, we don't get involved. So that's fine. So we use Intuit Connector to get data from Shopify, Amazon, etc. into QuickBooks. Client came to us. They were using A2X before they came to us. They want to continue using that. That's fine. It's £100 a month. That's their choice. But we just made it really clear from day one, look, we don't know this system. If this breaks, we can't help you. If you want to use this system, £100 a month cheaper, that's fine, because if this breaks, we step in and help you. It's one less thing for you to worry about. So we're really clear with our clients of, you can use whatever you like, but these are our systems. This is what we know inside out. We've got the support in place to support us to deliver this software. Like we chose not to use Xero because I refused to have to just email a help ticket in. I want to pick up a phone and speak to QuickBooks at the end of the phone. That's why we use QuickBooks. It's one of the major drivers. The reason I use Syft is because I know I can get on the phone, I can drop them an email, I can go onto the live web chat. I've got options. Other reporting apps, I send an email in and hope they understand what my email is telling them, because inevitably they get the wrong end of the stick and come back to me with a solution to a problem I don't have.
Yeah.
And the same with Crezco. Do I want to try and call PayPal? No, I do not. I call Crezco, I've got a problem, the problem gets fixed. You know, we did international payments yesterday. We had a few bumps, but Max was on the phone, it was dealt with. So we've deliberately chosen the right tech stack for us, and stack's a bit of a strong word because it's quite a flat stack, but be firm with your clients. Don't overinvest in everything. Don't over commit with training and stuff. Just get what's right for you and your clients and just stick with it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's very easy. I always remember the first time I started in accounting tech on the receipt bank side. This was like 5 years ago. And 2 weeks after I started, I had Accountex London. So I walked into this room, saw 160 apps in the space that I didn't know of. And I was like, how do people kind of make the most out of all the different apps that they can have and use them to 100% of what they can? And I think what is important, especially on the app side and for us as a tech firm, is how can we provide you with the training and the onboarding necessary in the least amount of time, and then continue with that continuous support. And I think that's super important. And I think that's one piece of advice when looking at apps and tech is ask them about their onboarding program. Like, who do you have access to support? Do you have a dedicated account manager? Do you have these points of contacts? Do you also, can you have access to a walkthrough guides? Because a lot of apps will say this, but if they can't give you a precise guide of how this will potentially work, that means it might be a little bit wishy-washy from time to time.
And I think just to tie back into that, I think what we were discussing the other day on this was actually, there's also the point that I know by using Syft Analytics that if a new customer comes to me, a customer comes to me who's in financial struggling, right, really struggling financially, I can give them access to Syft Analytics at no extra cost to me. That means I can pass that on to my client as a free tool. If I decide to then throw in half an hour of my time to help them understand it, fine. Or they've got a bank of YouTube videos to help understand it. We're going into an economic crisis. Can I justify charging £30 per license to someone that can't afford it really, and then justify charging my time when actually they've got YouTube that will get them through the majority of it, and they can start coming up with a cash flow plan themselves? Yeah. If I start charging them for all of that, they're going to go say, no, thanks, I'll do it on the back of a napkin and hope for the best. Yeah. So that's another thing that always drives how we choose to use tools. So we use Dex because it's one fixed fee. I can give it to every client. It speeds up the document processing. It improves live data. If I was using another tool like auto entry, I'd have to charge them for that because I'm paying per usage.
So I think that's super critical, and I also like that about Syft. And in a tough time like we're going into, like you mentioned, it's great because you can help your clients through the difficult time and build that relationship and do all you can to help them get through it without actually costing you money. But I think it also works as a good way to help you grow your practice, because often clients don't know they need forecasting or cash management or advice, or insights. They just think, give me the things that you have to give me a set of financial statements and help me do my tax. I don't want to pay you for anything more. And what they don't realize is that more is actually where all the value comes in, because that's where you as a business advisor can help them see how to grow their business. But you obviously can't go and pay for a whole bunch of, insights and graphs and forecasting if they're not willing to pay you. So kind of on Syft, what I get really excited about is when, accountant or someone can go and kind of generate this report that they would think would be valuable. It takes them a few minutes, doesn't cost them anything besides that few minutes of their time, and they can share it with their client. And if their client, can see the value, then wow, they can, generate a whole new revenue stream. But if the client doesn't, well, they haven't lost too much. So I think it's a mixture of those two kind of aspects, which is cool.
Yeah, I agree. I launched that poll and I think this is really interesting because it ties in. So I'll just share the result. So we asked in terms of how do you get the most out of your apps, and do you think you get the most out of your apps? And most people said actually no, and then looking at the charge more. And Dan also put in a question in the feed of clients always like the new shiny apps, and I think Alex just answered it, or we'll answer it live. Let me just bring that up. So Dan Art's problem is some clients like shiny new apps and will just download, use it, make a mess of them. Then the data and the charts that they get out of them, and they have no idea what it means. And I think that's like so true. But so I guess, do you guys have any good tips in terms of, first of all, how to make the best use out of an app, and when do you decide to bring on another app?
So I wouldn't say we've got everything out of all of our apps yet. There's still plenty out there. Like, we've only recently turned on the audit tool in Syft Analytics, so we're still learning what that means and how that works, and we'll get there eventually with that. So it's more powerful for us. But in response to Dan, who's like, oh, the clients like new apps, like, second guess them. If you think this client's analytical, he likes a graph, it's not going to cost you any more to give him access to your Syft, to his account on Syft Analytics. Like, when we signed up with Syft, we've put every single one of our clients on it that's got cloud accounting software. 99% don't have a login. It's purely there for my client managers to see it. But the ones that do like to have a look at a graph and they like to see their patterns, they've got access to it free of charge. It doesn't cost me anything to give them access to it. And it's actually prompted more value services being added, because they've gone, my cash flow is looking terrible. What can we do? It's like, well, let's have a session. Let's have a planning session. It's going to cost you this much. Oh, right. Well, I don't want this nightmare of a graph. So yes, let's do that. So it's a, you couldn't do that with some of Syft's competitors, because it's going to cost you 30 quid, 40 quid, 50 quid a month to give them that data. Whereas we've given them what is free to us, ultimately, conversation starter. The way I view Syft and Dex, for that matter, is Syft is it costs me however much it costs me a month as a reporting tool for my client managers to have better insight to the financial data my clients have in their QuickBooks licenses. Anything on top of that is a bonus. That's value added to me and to my clients. So I can give them access. Great. Everyone's happy. Same with Dex. We don't charge out for Dex. It is a cost of our business because it saves me 2 or 3 admins' wages in entering data into QuickBooks. So it's a cost efficient way for us to work. We pass it on to our clients. We're averaging 68% of documents that come to our business fully automated. Our team have no interaction with them whatsoever. And that's some of the highest rates indexed. Their average is 40%. So there are ways we can share all this information and get conversations started by using Syft and tools like that, and still be able to get some value out of it ourselves in the long run.
Yeah, I think, and that's the main thing, is choosing the right apps that you first of all like and can streamline and understand the process of. I think a lot of what we should do as suppliers a lot better is explain what's around us and how you can fit it into your current tech stack. But also, if you are using an app and you are paying for it, a lot of the apps, and including ourselves and probably and Syft as well, is you can reach out and do more onboarding to make sure, and this is all included in your package, but a lot of people don't kind of tend to reach out or wait for their account manager, and you may or may not. There's sometimes in apps quite a bit of turnover in terms of account managers, but the same system is always there. So I wouldn't be afraid to reach out to an app and say, can I have a little bit more training for this staff, for that staff? A lot of them won't charge for it. And if they do, then how much value would you get out of it in terms of the long term? And a lot of apps and a lot of the guys that I speak with actually do like to help out more so than try and upsell you onto a larger package or anything like that. And they tend to have practice experts or practice solution experts. Jodilee, for example. So yeah.
My job, my whole purpose in coming to Syft was to, obviously help people understand it better, but we've created Syft Campus, and it's to do part of our solution to that. Obviously, you need many different ways, but we're trying to create an online platform where people can go and say, oh, I want to learn more about this part of Syft. Let me go take a course on it. And some of them are very long because the sections are very detailed, but you can go and work through it at your own pace. And then on top of that, we obviously still have account managers, and you can set up onboardings or like certain sections. So if you want to just understand how to use this section, you can set it up. And I think from Syft, but I think for most apps, like apps do well when the people are using their software, if people are actually getting value out of Syft, then they're going to stick with it. So it's in our best interest to make sure that people are getting the most value out of Syft. So I think our best thing is when people reach out to us and say, how do I use this? What can I do about this? Most apps would, I'm sure, happily help you get the most out of the app, because then you're going to stick around. So I think, if you're not if you don't think you're getting the most out of your apps, I think reach out to someone, and they should be there to help you to learn how to get more out of it.
Yeah. And the onboarding time, sometimes a lot less than what they people can think of, and the continuous support is always there. The second point as well that we asked is in terms of kind of meeting the demand from their clients, and should I have to charge more for my apps? And I think you guys covered it a little bit in terms of having a fixed fee, but also we at Crezco, we charge per client, so it's depending on if this client does need it, because we don't see us as like the full essential app that every client needs to need. It is on a specific client basis, like, okay, this client has quite a lot of payments that need to go out, or has a problem with payroll, to make sure that it goes out. So that's why we pay on and off. But Johan, do you think you have any tips in terms of how to kind of keep your costs down in terms of the apps, and making sure you're leveling that out, especially when people are going to be asking for more advice, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, we deal with quite a wide range of clients. We've got clients dotted across the UK. We've got people from your local window cleaner through to big firms that are going to revolutionize an industry with their new tech. There is two types of people are going to come to you that are going to see value in a cash flow forecast, for example, or reporting information. One is you're a small business that is in trouble. They need your help just to survive. And my view on that is, right, I'm going to do that for free, because I know with my help they can survive. Every single one of our clients survived COVID. Not one of our clients went bust during COVID or closed down because we helped them. Now, I didn't charge for that, and I won't be charging for our aid going through this economic crisis, because my view of the win is that client's still around and is still paying me their monthly subscription. Do I want £1,000 for doing a cash flow forecast or whatever I'm going to charge, and they go bust, and they say, no, I'm not paying you that much, or I pay you that much, but then it's £1,000 out of my cash flow, and now it turns out I can't afford anything else, and they go bust, and then you've got no more monthly fees coming in? Or do I give them an hour of my time, help them out, give them a tool that's not costing me any extra to give them, and know that they're going to run for another 5-10 years with me as their client, as their accountant? That's 5 or 10 years worth of accounting fees coming in. I know which one I want in the long run. And then you've got other types of clients who they're growing, they're excelling, they are coming to you for cash flow because they want to be able to plan their future. Can we afford to take on new staff? I want to do this new project, this new business idea. I need to get a business loan. They're the ones you can charge. They see value in everything you're doing because you're helping them to grow and exceed their plans, and they will pay you for that time. We've got far too many business coaches and supposed pricing experts and mentors in this industry at the moment that will turn around and say, charge everyone for everything. That's fine. If you don't want that client to survive until next year and you don't see the value in their lifetime monthly fees, that's fine. Do what you want. Personally, I'd rather a client that's paying me £100 a month stay with me for 10 years and I'll make 12 grand out of them than try and get £500 out of them and they go bust in a year's time. It's all about lifetime value. And with accountants are shockingly bad at times for seeing the lifetime value and the long-term return on investment of goodwill.
Sure. That's quite something to say. You didn't lose any clients during COVID. Well done. That's incredible.
Yeah, no, we put out I just put out the poll for, let me show the results of in terms of charging extra during COVID or not, and especially for the future, which is interesting to see. But I think, how would you, to your point, I know that you said, and I think I would feel the same, there's a lot to manage, especially with clients reaching in, reaching out, making sure that you're giving them the right advice. But how would you kind of section of time to say if a client needs an hour. I mean, an hour is quite a long time, especially for when everything is going on. How would you kind of manage that, or do you look after like different client managers, or do you take it personally?
Every client, so we've got a team of 6 client managers, including myself. We've all got different levels of expertise, so we deal with different clients for different reasons. We've got one client manager who's got a good bookkeeping knowledge, but they're real specialists in payroll and pensions. I spend most of my time dealing with due diligence, etc. But ultimately, the same rule applies to all of us. We've all got a Calendly booking link. Every one of our clients has access to it. But to make sure no one can monopolize our time, the longest a meeting lasts on that link is 30 minutes.
Okay.
And you know what? If you structure a meeting, have an agenda, do it online using tools like Zoom, Connect4, fantastic meeting tool, really made our meetings much more efficient. You've got software that's already kicking out the reports, such as Syft Analytics. You turn up to that meeting, 10 minutes prep beforehand, just go through the reports, make sure you're happy they're accurate. Within 30 minutes, you will answer all their questions, be able to continue to build on that relationship, and walk away having delivered value. Because I can guarantee you, if you have an hour-long meeting, 30 minutes of it is probably non-valued discussion, etc. If you keep focused, the client walks away feeling like that's half an hour of valuable time I've had, and you've got space for another meeting in there as well.
I 100% agree with that. I think in my corporate experience, people loved to create meetings for nothing. And if it was an hour, it would take an hour. But if somehow you made it 30 minutes, you would, most of the time, there obviously are exceptions, but for the most part, you would stick to that half an hour. So I think you're kind of limiting your time and keeping focused is definitely key. So,
and I learned that from QuickBooks. If anyone has a meeting with anyone senior up in QuickBooks or anything like that, they turn up at the hour and the meeting ends at the 30-minute mark. If that's what they've put in their diary, that is what you get.
Yeah,
it happens, and it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel unnatural. It's just fantastically well curated.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you can do that, then you can deliver more value to your clients and it's not as expensive to you.
Yeah, I agree. I think especially in terms of the structuring of the meetings, we try and do as much as possible as well, because we have functions of 50 minutes, 30 minutes, and we hardly ever go over 45. I mean, we had a 1 hour 30 meeting the other day, and internally we were like, that was long. I mean, that was super long, but it was productive. But however, what we do at the beginning is also, and if anybody starts a meeting and doesn't do it, we always kind of pull back to just say, wait a minute, always go into the meeting with the structure of just like, this is what we're going to cover, and this is the time frame that we got. At the end of the meeting, if you haven't covered all the points, then you know that meeting hasn't actually gone to as much as possible, and you haven't got out whatever. So you might have to reschedule, but I think that's a good telltale sign as well if the client needs more assistance than you were initially expecting. And again, is that chargeable? Is it not? I think it depends of actually, is there another value of that service that they're looking for and they're trying to get out of your free time type thing. I think that's quite good to kind of cover through.
Definitely. And send that agenda to the client before that meeting, because otherwise they walk in blind. So I know, and my client knows, when we have a meeting, like if I have a team meeting, so I have a client managers meeting every Tuesday morning. I have other meetings scheduled throughout the weeks and the months. Everyone has the agenda 24 hours beforehand. And if anyone wants to add anything, they need to tell me what it is. They've got to give me 12 hours notice, and they've got to give me how long it's going to take to cover that point. Right. And not one of our team meetings ever lasts more than 45 minutes.
Yeah, I know. It can seem incredibly long. And I think as well, a good telltale sign is after the meeting, if you can't put like 3 or 4 bullet points down of the key action points or what we need to do, that's saying that there's maybe a little bit too much waffle going on in that bit. But we're not saying you've got to become a robot. I mean, there is a fine line. I think it can get a bit cold if you do.
I just find it incredible that people are happy to have a meeting about a meeting internally, but then they don't know if they're going to get, they don't know whether to charge someone for the client for the meeting, that they're about to have a meeting for that meeting. But so they see value in the meeting for the meeting, but they don't see value for that half an hour meeting with the client. So I know which one's more valuable.
Yeah.
It's not the meeting about a meeting.
No.
How do you decide which meetings you're going to charge for then?
We don't charge for meetings, full stop.
Okay.
All of our phone calls, all of our meetings, all our discussions are free of charge. We charge for actions and takeaways.
Okay.
So we'll have a meeting with a client about their plans to get a business loan to do something. That's fine. We'll have that meeting free of charge. We will then charge them if they need us to put reports and stuff together for that business loan. So we charge for the action, not the discussion.
Right.
We run and always have done on a very strict policy of, like the NHS, the treatment or the discussion in our case is free at the point of requirement. All of our advice is. And that's how I picked up loads of clients in the early days, because accountants were charging for meetings and my new clients couldn't get the knowledge they needed, and they were Googling it and getting it wrong because they got US tax rules and stuff. So the simple win was for me was, well, I just don't charge for my meetings. I charge for what I produce at the end of it.
Yeah. No, it's a very good point. It's a very good point. Yeah, Malcolm, is Connect 4. Really nice guys. If you haven't heard of Connect 4 or looked at it, it's a very cool app. From app to app. And I know Johan was one of the early adopters as well, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm an early.
You're not an adopter of anything anyway.
I think we've also we had a webinar a while ago with Connect 4 and our CEO Van as well, because yeah, I think they're very cool.
Awesome. Yeah, I think we kind of covered a lot. If you guys got any questions or anything in terms of what we discussed and want to cover anything about how best to get out your app or anything, feel free to ask us. I'm just seeing that but yeah, Dan just put in actually in the Q&A, but it's not a question, but I've just gained another client from another accountant who charged them for a 2-minute phone call, 40 quid.
So if you think that's bad, I picked up a new client. They were one of my biggest clients in the early days. They were like £900 a month to us. They were phenomenal. The reason they moved, because their accountant turned up uninvited to their office, spent an hour and a half with an accounts assistant in tow, telling them all about MTD VAT, and this was before MTD VAT happened, and how they were going to use software. I think they were going to use Xero.
Yeah.
Then sent them a £900 bill for that one meeting that the client didn't ask for. Then, after the client finally paid it, they turned around and said, "Oh, don't worry about that software. We're not going to use that one. We're going to stay with Sage anyway." And that meeting still stood as a billable meeting. Is that any wonder they wanted to move?
That's crazy.
Yeah. I know it's Claire's just put in the same. It's just like most of my clients have come from accountants who are uncommunicative or expensive or both. I think, the communication part, especially with the partners that I thought did extremely well during COVID and what we're seeing now, are the ones that have the regular meetings and it can be really quick. I know it's tiring, especially talking to a lot of people in the same day, but you'll get a lot more value out of it. And for apps as well, we prefer to speak to our clients to make sure that the ones that are already on the app stay on the app rather than gaining new ones. And I think that's applicable to any business as such. It's a lot more expensive to lose a client than it is to gain one. And yeah, I mean the expensive side is for sure. I don't think you have to be the cheapest, but you've got to show the value that you're kind of bringing compared to. Don't charge for silly stuff.
You can be expensive and charge, but be communicative. We pride ourselves, so we monitor our email response times, and I know 48% of the emails that come in and get responded to are done within an hour of receiving the email. And 89% of our emails are responded to within 24 hours.
Nice.
And we tell clients that, because every single one was, "Oh, my client wasn't very responsive." Right, this is what we are delivering. These are the facts and figures.
Yeah.
Sure.
And they just go, oh, so where do I sign? They don't even look at the price. They just go, yeah. Like literally just today, one of my client managers went out yesterday, quoted for a new client, handyman. We've quoted 150 quid a month for this client. He was paying £200 a year to his previous accountant for this, exactly the same services. But because we told him how responsive we are to his emails, and because we've proven that, because within an hour of him emailing and saying, would you be able to have a meeting? He had a link response sent to him to book that meeting in, which had availability the next day. We'd proven we're responsive. He just signed. That the price wasn't the object. It was the levels of service he wanted.
But I think it's that whole the value of what you're getting. You can be paying a little bit, but if you're getting nothing, it's actually a lot more expensive than paying a lot for a lot. And I know when I was at university back in the day, there was this age-old competition between what we had: financial accounting and managerial accounting. And financial accounting is that once a year you do your financial statements and you report. And management accounting always said that's useless, it's historic. You should have more frequent reporting. And I think with all these apps and this technology and with the cloud, they've kind of merged, and you can have your profit and loss or your balance sheet or on a daily almost basis. And I think that's where the value comes in, because you don't want to wait a year until you decide what to do. And if you're the accountant and you're providing these reports and you're providing this information, it's so much more valuable if you have these frequent meetings. But in order to do that, it can't be taking you thousands of hours to prepare a daily financial statement. So you have to have the tools that kind of take that time away from you, so you can rather spend your time on giving the insights and the advice.
Now, if you want a case study of how powerful having that data is, so a client came to us 2 years ago, nearly bankrupt, absolutely no cash flow. It was a small restaurant. We gave them access to Syft Analytics. We got them up and running. I had a monthly, so the owner was in there basically daily looking at her cash flow. And then I would have a monthly meeting. I still have that monthly meeting with her, mainly because I get given her lunch and it's fantastic. But I have that meeting with her. She's just declared, so 2 years on, and we've had COVID in that time.
Sure.
We've just done her accounts that ended last month at the end of October. We've just turned those accounts around, and she already knew what her tax bill was and that she'd already done £100,000 profit this year.
Wow.
Because
amazing.
she's got access to her data. And she could see straight away, like, so last month I swapped my energy provider, and she could see that dip in the graph straight away the next month. Like, we've swapped food providers, we've changed the pricing on the menu, we've done this, and she could see the little steps. And now we have budgets in place, like, right, your sales target's this, I'm going to give you 30% for cost of food, I'm going to give you 30% for wages, 30% for this, 10% for that, everyone's happy.
I think if you gamify it as well, and we talk about it a lot, is those small things of just like gamifying it. It creates like this really addictive kind of view of the grass, and people do enjoy it more, right?
Exactly. And so the client and her two managers who sit in the meeting with me, they've now got to the point where they look at my iPad before they don't even look at the numbers, they look at the color, because they know I'll write whatever the percentages are or anything. I write it in green if it's good. I write it in red if it's bad. So they already know straight away if we've had a good month or not, just by glancing at the colors on my iPad screen. So, and they love that. That's how green's the iPad? Like, that's the running joke now. And they love it. And it's worked an absolute treat having that data available to them at all times.
I think actually, just circling back quickly as well, because I think you said an important point, and I'm not sure everybody would track these. I certainly didn't for our sport, but we've implemented it about 8 months ago. Is your time to action, so the TTA. What do you use to track that, Johan? And well, we use internally we use HubSpot, which is a CRM system, also for sales. But do you use anything? And Jodilee, do you guys use anything for that?
Yeah, so we use HubSpot to track the emails. We don't use it for pretty much anything else. I literally have everyone's emails connected to it, so I can track the response rates. Purely because I knew that was the biggest pain point. And you know what? The number of clients that used to say, you've not responded to my email in time. And I could go back to them and say, right, actually, we responded within the hour. The problem we've got is it took you another 119.5 hours to respond back to us. And they just go, oh, oh, the problem's not you, is it? No.
Yeah, I'm not sure what software we use, unfortunately, but we do definitely have, oh, thank you, Alex. We use Pipedrive. But we also, especially for our customer success team, it's a huge factor. And we have a first Friday of the month meeting every month. And it's kind of the, the star, if they've managed to decrease that time by 1 second, it's like impressive. So it really is something, because again, as you mentioned at the beginning, Johan, like if you're dealing with an app, you want them to be there and responsive. You don't want to send it out into the ether and hope that one day you'll get your answer when you've already had to figure something out. So yeah, it's definitely very important.
HubSpot service. I mean, I love it, because you can also do like surveys for your clients and so on. I think that there is a free version. I'm not too sure on the limits that you can do with that. And then there's a very quick starter pack as well, where you can track all your emails. You can send feedback forms and so on. Is there anything that I can do better? And that's all included in their service pack, which it's very cool.
Awesome.
Cool. Yeah, I'm just realizing that we've been chatting for a while, so
it was a great chat.
it was minutes before I turn the screen off.
I know. Yep. Meeting ended. But yeah, if anybody has anything else to cover quickly, but I've enjoyed my time, to say the least.
I think I'll just summarize my key takeaways, because you said we should have that for every meeting. So for me, I think we all need to be thinking about how we're going to help our clients manage their cash better, and getting paid quicker, which Crezco can help you with, is really good. And being able to see and plan and manage your cash through some cash forecasting or cash manager tool like Syft had is really good. And then just when we're thinking about tech stack, it's important that we can get the most out of the tech that we're currently using and not just keep paying for new things. And that the tech we're using gives us the ability to grow and to help clients without it costing us a fortune. So that's my overall understanding of what we've discussed.
Yeah, completely agree. And it is all, you can put all the tools in the world in front of them, and they can cost as much money as you want, because people will charge you for it. But ultimately, if you don't respond to those emails and you don't answer their questions and you don't explain those insights, it doesn't matter. They still walk away, feel unsupported. Yeah,
I was going to say, the level of service is always key. I think how your customer views you as a person, more so the apps that you can propose, is a lot more important. I mean, you could put any app under the sun, right? But it's important.
Definitely.
Thanks so much.
Cool.
Finished 1 minute before.
Perfect dying. But thanks very much, guys. Thank you to everybody that attended. We'll also send out the recordings to everybody afterwards. It will be on our YouTube channels, whatever. We'll put it on LinkedIn probably. And we also have a white paper that we did with Syft, Crezco and Syft. We'll share that in the email afterwards. So if you want to download that, that's just kind of covering a little bit more in terms of that. But yeah, thanks very much, guys. And
Have a good
speak
day.
to you all soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.